Dr. Tsai, thank you so much for joining us today as a special interview for the Metabolic Resiliency Summit.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I am so excited about our topic. I think it's maybe some people would be a little surprised that as an MD doctor trained in integrative medicine, you've really taken in a new approach to supporting your patients outside of the traditional medical model. So I'd like to formally introduce you and introduce the topic at hand today. So, Dr. Cindy Tsai is an award winning board certified internal medicine physician, a TEDx speaker, best selling author, and founder of Yes and More, an integrative wellness, life coaching, and speaking agency focused on helping high achievers optimize their well being to create an impact in the world. As a leader, physician, and patient herself, Dr. Tsai saw and experienced the impact of chronic stress on the body and was compelled to do more than prescribe medications as a band aid. Through her own healing journey, she explored and trained in a wide range of modalities and emphasizes taking an integrative approach to wellness. Dr. Tsai believes that everyone deserves to enjoy the life they work so hard for, and it's time to say yes to yourself and more. Welcome, Dr. Tsai.
Thank you. So excited to be here.
Yes, I'm excited about this topic. I oftentimes joke around that we women, we should on ourselves way too much. And there's this cycle of blame, shame, and guilt that is sometimes and most of the time self-imposed. And we do not even understand how that affects our health or begins to affect our health. So I'm so thankful for you bringing this topic to light on building resiliency, really looking at almost like a mindset piece of how to stop shooting on ourselves all the time and what is the alternative.
Absolutely. I'm definitely really happy to be able to share this and bring awareness to this idea so that people know and can improve their health and well-being.
Tell me a little bit about how you arrived at life coaching and what you do with your patients or your clients now when you see women's health really take a nosedive because of their mindset.
Yeah, so I think it's really important to remember that we are a whole. It's really important to see the person as a whole, and that we're not just our mind or our body or our spirit, right? It's really looking at the whole picture. And I think a lot of times we get a lot of conflicting messages and we only focus on one area of our health and well-being. And we end up being really focused on just taking care of one part of our health. And sometimes that causes us to go down a rabbit hole and really limits, we have tunnel vision. And I think that, yes, physical health, right? Knowing what you're eating, how you're moving your body, all these things are really important to support, but also not forgetting about the mindset piece and really staying connected and grounded to who you really are and being in that place of alignment, right? I think we talked about intuition and knowing that, as I mentioned in my TEDx talk, that the body has its own intelligence and it talks to us, but we need to pay attention to these messages. And so I think it's really important to bring awareness to our behaviors, what we're thinking, what we are believing, and how we see ourselves, because that's really important, especially as we continue to progress through life, through different decades, and we go through different changes emotionally, physically, socially, all of these things. It's really important to be aware and to question and to really be intentional about how you're living your life so that you can be in the best state of health.
Yes. I love that, you and I both serve mostly predominantly women. And there's something about us women, and I can say this from a even just cultural perspective, where we put a lot of expectations on ourselves. And we don't realize that if we could say our thoughts out loud to a friend, that sometimes the self-talk that's happening is very toxic. How do we even begin
100%.
to, on one hand, we need to be aware of that. But if that's our, MO, how do we even begin to shift that?
Yeah. And I think it's through having conversations like these, through being open, and we can't change what we don't know. And so I really think the first step is awareness. And I always talk about it with my clients about how we want to take the stance of an observer and to learn to be open, to be curious, and non-judgmental. Mm. But I think, of course, it's much easier said than done. And because we're so used to this self-talk, right? So much of the imposter syndrome and, all of that, just feeling like we're not good enough and always pushing us to do more and take care of everything and everyone else. And it's nonstop, right? I mean, and it all adds up. I always like to say that everyone's different. So the things you need are different. It's not one size fits all. And to that point, we also all have a different threshold. Mm. And so it's really important to stay grounded, to really connect to yourself. And I think a really important practice is to learn the skill of self-compassion, because we are often so hard on ourselves, right? Like we would never say the things that we say to ourselves to other people. And I think it's really time to be aware, to pay attention, and to learn different tools and practices so that you can change this pattern. And I like to emphasize that this is simply a habit. It's a behavior that you learned over time. And this is really exciting and good news, because that means you can unlearn it. And it's a process and it's a practice, but it's absolutely possible. We know from brain science, research, neuroplasticity, right? It's possible to change. And when you talk about resiliency and all of that, it's all connected, right? It's never too late. A lot of the clients I work with, they're in their 50s and 60s. And I hear this a lot where they come in and they're like head down, they're like feeling like it's too late, like, they're past their prime. And the first thing I say is like, why are you thinking that? Why are you believing and buying into those thoughts and beliefs? Let's pause and just question it. Without shame, without judgment, not making it wrong, without guilt, but to bring a lens of openness and curiosity, and that place of compassion, right? That I think we all have innately as humans for others, but so much harder to bring to ourselves.
Yes. Tell us a little about your book.
Yeah, I'm happy to. So my book is here. It's called So Much Better. And it's a best-selling book. It's a self-help book based in mindfulness. And basically in it, I share life-changing strategies to develop calm, confidence, and curiosity to become your own inspiring success story. And I wrote the book because after coaching many, many clients and seeing the same things come up again and again, I was really inspired to put it all together into a very helpful resource so that I could share it with clients, with people broadly, so that they could learn these very effective tools and techniques, even if we weren't going to work together directly. Because I really believe that everyone deserves to have access to these really important tools and strategies. And a lot of times we're stuck because we don't know what to do next. And in that place, it can feel really isolating, helpless, and you just feel stuck. and it's just overwhelming. You don't know where to start. And so I wanted to provide a very simple framework and guide for people to have more of an expanded understanding of how the brain works, how the body works, what can you do? What are simple things that you can do right now to move the needle, to change your life, right? To be more in alignment from that integrative mind, body, spirit approach so that you can really be well.
I love it. I think it's so interesting. When I first met you, the question always came up like, how did a medical doctor, traditionally trained, become a life coach? It's so refreshing to see this in your own journey of how you've evolved. And if you have someone come to you who's very much like, fix it, because I think a lot of people come to doctors and are like, can you just fix it? And they want it done yesterday. What tools do you use with your patients, or what do you tell them that really helps them have the proper kind of expectations when it comes to shifting? Because again, you said it's a habit, and in a way that's hopeful, but a lot of us know how many times we failed ourselves, disappointed ourselves when we've made a resolution to change our habits, and especially the habits of, again, the entrainment of years and years, decades and decades of thinking a certain way.
Yes. And I really appreciate that you bring that up because I think so often we do go see practitioners wanting for them to solve our problems, to just fix it, right? It's human nature to want that quick fix, to make it go away. And definitely, right? Like we wanted it done yesterday. And so I think a big part of this process and journey is to really develop a relationship together and a partnership.
Mm.
And I think that it's a process, but it's a lot easier when you can see yourself and when you have a guide to take you through. And it makes it so much more accessible and supportive, right? And I always like to make things super simple and easy because I think that just working with the brain and the body, like a lot of times, especially as high achievers, we want that, like, we sign up for all the things. We're like super well intentioned, but then we end up having shiny object syndrome and like going, here and there and all the things, like it's like we read articles, we buy the supplements, we're like, okay, yes, I'm going to do this and this and this. And then honestly, it's just not sustainable. It's too overwhelming on top of everything else you're trying to balance in your life. Right? And so I think really it's keeping it super simple and it's looking at, hey, making that connection, being honest with yourself of like, hey, yes, this is my long-term goal and my vision, but let's break it down, right? Because you absolutely can get there, but there's a way to do it with ease as opposed to forcing your way, hustling, like, just like overwhelming you along the way, right? Because that's, we know, just not going to be helpful for your adrenals and just like going to totally shift all your hormones. And it's just not good for the long run. And so I think it's really having that partnership, really putting your client, your patient at the center of their care, right? And really providing the education, the tools, the support to really help them see that it's possible.
And how would you advise, if I know you have a gift for our audience, by the way, a very practical tool? Maybe you could share that with us.
Yes. So I think a lot of times as we're trying to navigate our lives, we come up with a lot of different decision points, right? We're trying to decide, okay, should I do this? Should I do that? Does this feel right? And it can be really overwhelming to try to figure out, okay, what's the next step? And a really important tool is to be able to, or skill, I should say, is to be able to connect to your intuition. And so my free gift is to help guide people to practice this skill of connecting to your intuition. And so in this very simple, short 5-minute guided exercise, I help you really hone in and come back into your body so that you can understand what it feels like. What does your intuition feel like? What feels good and right to you so that you can develop the skill and help you make better decisions that feel really aligned and good and for your highest good.
Love it. So I'll make sure that everyone gets the link to that skill meditation guide on honing your intuition. And my next question for you is, as a life coach, how would you advise when someone should work with someone like you versus a integrative doctor versus a therapist?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say that all of these modalities are very complementary. And I think that's really the beauty of it, right? When part of my own journey to coaching to integrated medicine and wellness is because I had my own health struggles. And I talked about it in my TEDx talk when I woke up one day not being able to see. Like this was during residency 10 years ago, just like terrified. And I was a physician already and trying to diagnose myself, navigate the healthcare system, and all the things. And so I think that part of all of this is in my own healing journey was taking a pause, was
A forced pause, by the way.
right. It's like, and it's interesting because I think a lot of patients, clients, they oftentimes come to a point in their lives where they are also forced to pause and to stop. And if you really look back, there probably have been whispers and messages along the way, but it's just, have we been paying attention? Right. And so basically for me, when I had to pause, when I had to stop and listen, I gave myself permission to really assemble my own team of practitioners who truly listened, who really wanted to look at the root cause, who wanted to support me, who worked together. And I really think it was that very integrative approach that helped me heal. And thankfully, my vision has recovered.
Mhm.
And so I would say that definitely in terms of coaching, therapy, medicine, there's a time and place for each and every one of them, and they're not the same. I think about coaching as something where you have a guide with you, where you learn a lot of tools. It's very action and present and future focused so that you're really empowered to move forward and change your life. And I see therapy as really important component as well, because oftentimes therapy is more past focused. And we know that everything's connected, right? I mean, where you are today is a result of who you are previously. And so it's really important to have that support, have that space to explore, to look at those pieces, right? To process a lot of the hurt, the trauma, the wounds, to understand that, it's okay and it's safe, right? To have that piece. And I think about medicine as, of course, the more physical, data driven, looking at blood work and, doing the physical exam and medications and supplements. And in that aspect, right, some of the more specialized functional testing and hormones and whatnot. But I also think that's a very integral part of all of this, right? Because it's not just one or the other. It's not just your body. It's not just your mind. It's like mind, body, spirit. It's everything together.
Yes. I oftentimes think we're on the same page. I love how you emphasize that part of your healing journey was leaning on a team and building that team of support so that you felt safe and you created that space with people holding you. And I
Mhm.
think, unfortunately, in the American culture, I think of like every nuclear family for themselves. It's no longer the village.
Mm.
And sometimes when it comes to even within that kind of mindset, there's the every man for themselves, every
Yeah.
woman for themselves. Like if we're suffering, it's our job to fix it. It's no one else's problem but ours. And when we finally look for help, it's like we're looking for a savior. So
Yes.
it's gotten to that level of desperateness when it's just like when you think about like, having a good plumber, having a good dentist, having a good mechanic, having a good tailor, right? It's like we always have different areas of support that where we know we can't do it all and we're looking for a referral, we're looking to build, but we don't expect our plumber to also, give
Be
us
our
financial
seamstress.
advice.
Totally.
Yeah, or be a seamstress.
Yeah,
And it's like,
exactly.
I think that it's important concept to like broaden. It's like we need to diversify where we look for answers from, even though
Mhm.
the answers are within. Like you said, having guides to help support can really help get us unstuck faster and draw out
Definitely.
even like for me, like it's like bouncing the ball back and forth. It draws out your intuition and maybe hones it faster than if you were to try to do it yourself.
100%. And I think definitely I see this where, and I mentioned this in my TEDx talk, where a lot of times people have polarizing views
Mm.
about medicine and health, right? It's like some people are all about Western medicine, some people are all about alternative. And my whole perspective is that why do we need to choose? Why are we pigeonholing ourselves
Mm.
when it's very much a spectrum? Because everyone's different. And I think it's important to see it more in that broader scope. And also remembering that you, as an individual, as you go through your life, different phases and seasons, you will need different things.
Mm.
And so I think it's so important to honor that. And again, that's why I come back to being grounded in yourself, connecting to your intuition, right? And it's really bringing in all the pieces together. It's looking at the evidence, the data, but also just doing a gut check, right? Like, how does this feel to you? Like, this person has all the credentials, but if you go see them and you just don't feel comfortable, like, honor that, right? It's so important to be able to feel safe to so that you can be seen, heard, understood, and just supported throughout.
I love it. And it's interesting too, sometimes the insurance model also pigeonholes us. We think that we can only access what our insurance will pay for. And, if you check into your body, if you really need to look outside of insurance, your body will also affirm that this is valuable, this is important, even if it's not quote unquote covered or, it's not prescribed by someone.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what's really encouraging is that there are more conversations being had about the integrative space,
Mhm.
right? I really think about the future being in integrative care, right? Having that team, whole person care, and not one or the other, and looking at different things that work for different people. And ideally really bringing in terms of insurance coverage and all of that so that it doesn't have to be a barrier to
Mhm.
access and all the things that are very important for healthcare outcomes.
Yes. So, Dr. Tsai, if people want to follow you, where can they find you? How do they get in touch and stay in touch?
Sure, I'm available. I post regularly on social media, so please follow and connect. My handle is at Cindy Tsai MD on LinkedIn, Instagram, and feel free to visit my website at cindysaimd.com for updates on future events, blog posts, and things like that. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, I hope this is a conversation to be continued, and I will definitely try to make sure we get an opportunity for our audience to interact with you live. So for those of you watching, we hope to make this available in the Facebook group, and we'll announce when Cindy here can step in and answer questions and connect. So thank you again, Dr. Tsai.
Thank you so much.